My name is Abby Herzig. I'm the Director of Education at AMS. The AMS is recording the webinar and reserves the right to show it again and distribute it. So if you participate, you're agreeing that any contribution you make will be part of that recording. Please use the chat to communicate with each other or to ask any questions, and we will pass questions along to our presenter as needed. If you want to share ideas with other attendees, make sure that your chat is set to all panelists and attendees. If it is all panelists, then only we will receive it. And as you leave the webinar, at the end, you will be directed to a brief survey. We really ask you to take, it should take less than a minute to complete that to help us figure out what we can best do to serve you in the future. So with that said, let me unshare my screen and I will introduce Tonka Jokelova is the Director of the Center for Learning and Design, Innovation and Online Instruction at the State University of New York College of Technology at Canton. She's been working in higher education, instructional design since 2005, but she's taught learners of all ages and in all modalities. Tonka specializes in faculty development, online course accessibility, and motivation in online education. She has co-authored and designed several MOOCs through the Coursera and Canvas platforms. She considers education her profession and her passion. And with that, I will turn it over to Tonka. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Just like Abby said, my name is Tonka Jokelova, and I am the Director of Center for Learning Design, Innovation and Online Instruction at Canton. Today, we will talk about engaging students in online classes. I know many times I hear instructors saying, well, it's an online class, we can't really have interaction, we can't really have social engagement, we can't really have all that social fluffy things that we usually have in regular courses. So hopefully before we leave today, or hopefully before you leave today, you'll be convinced otherwise, and hopefully I will be able to give you some practical strategies that you can take into your courses today and use them with your students. And hopefully the strategies that that I'm going to talk about, or we're going to talk about, hopefully they're not too time consuming and easily understandable and easily memorable, so that you're able to just jump right in and start your design, your course design, concentrated or focused on student engagement. So let me share my screen with you and we'll get going. Give me just 1 second, please. All right, okay, screen 2. All right, are you able to see inspired online math courses designing for engaged students on your screen?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm trying to get myself back into Zoom because I have several windows open and I lost you in my windows. Okay, all right, very good. So let's go on and start with the agenda today. We will define some barriers that our students have or have had, and hopefully will not have, but probably will have, when it comes to teaching in fall and when it comes to teaching in this whole new world that we are living in. We will also talk about some considerations that we can think about as we are designing our courses, and we will also talk about some practical strategies, just like I shared. So let's move on. Before we do though, give me just 1 second. I'm trying to, it's not letting me. Give me just 1 second. I'm trying to get us a survey link into the chat area. So give me just 1 second. There we go. All right. I have a survey for you that I would like for you to take. Let me get into the chat area. Why am I not able to get into the chat area, I wonder?
if you hover over the bottom, you'll see chat.
All right, let me stop sharing or post sharing right now and see if I can do it that way. All right. So here is the link, and let's take maybe, I don't know, a minute or so to take the survey, to take the questionnaire. I'm going to pause for a minute and then we'll come back. Oh, okay. Give me just 1 second. Thank you for all attendees. There we go. I posted it to the wrong chat. You should be able to see it now. It's the SurveyMonkey link.
Yes, it should be out there for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Heather.
I can see that it's filling in.
Okay, good. All right, so I took the survey as well, and I'm going to share my screen. I waited a couple of minutes, or a couple of seconds after you, so that we're seeing hopefully one of the final results of the survey. So we're seeing that most of us need focus and patience, and then the next what we need is hope. Okay, so I'm wondering, focus and patience. Why do we need patience in this time? Is it because all that is happening at our colleges and we are not quite sure how the fall will be and we need to be patient because of that? Is that why we need patience? Why do we need focus? Do we need focus because we need to get the courses ready and we have summer going on and we have pools and ice creams and walking outside and just enjoying summer? Do we need focus because of all the priorities that are kind of tugging on our time? I wonder, why do we need a lot of focus and a lot of patience? I don't think we're going to analyze this a little bit more right now, but keep that tug in the back of your mind, and we'll come back to this questionnaire a little bit later. So let me go back to sharing the presentation, and we'll talk about, I'm going to keep it this way. I'm going to make it larger. So I will not give you, are you seeing my grilling picture that says I will not give you a solution? Okay, good, thank you, Kate. So yes, I will not give you a solution today. I will, because there is not one single solution that anybody can give you. But what I will give you is, I will give you some framework of how to think about course design. I will have you hopefully a different outlook on how to think about course design when it comes to student engagement, when it comes to designing items and elements that will give the student that push just to try a little bit harder, just to be a little bit more in the course. And also, I will not deny or admit that we will talk about grilling and egg. So just think about that, and hopefully we'll come back to it later as we go. All right, so there was a study in 2005, and it was replicated in 2015. There was a factor analysis of student barriers to online learning. And they found out, interestingly enough, that number one barrier to online studying or students completing online courses is, oh, okay, hold on, give me 1 second. is a lack of social interaction. So I thought it was quite interesting because you would think that probably internet being slow or not having good time management skills would be number one, but no, really, social interaction was found to be number one barrier to students completing online courses. Some other barriers, interesting enough, were instructor issues, meaning instructor might not be present, an administrative issue, I could not get into the course, and all the technical stuff. Time and support for studies. Do I have time? If this is a non-traditional student, I probably have several other priorities that are competing for my time. Learning motivation, number 4, that was really interesting as well. I was really surprised with number 1 and really surprised with number 4 when I found that out. And then you'll see technical problems and then internet and all the other things that come to play when you're studying online. So now I'm wondering, I will stop sharing for a minute and go to chat. I'm wondering where you think those barriers will be when it comes to fall. Do they remain the same? Do you think they will move around? Do you think there will be new barriers that come to play? Where do you think we will be in the fall? And
there's a question in the chat about whether those are in order.
Yes, they are. Thank you for a great question. Yes, they are. Number 1 is social interaction. Number 2, admin and all that. Yes, that is the number of significance. So then again, I'm having those barriers in on the slide. Where do you think we will be? I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and go to chat so that I can monitor where you're thinking where we will be in the fall.
Or we can read them to you if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Either or. So in the chat or grab the microphone, I don't know if you're able to, you think that we'll have the same issues? Carolina thinks that we'll have the same issues. Learning motivation, time management, Heather thinks will be probably more up top, I'm assuming. Social interaction, we'll stay high on the list. Issues with COVID illness, for sure. Learning motivation will be number 1, that's what one thinks. Okay. Social interaction for sure. I do believe, I agree with you. I do believe that, I'm going to start sharing again. So what I believe is that possibly the cost and access to the internet and technical problems might go a little bit up on the list. That's what I'm thinking, because for my own college, I'm seeing that not everybody has good equipment. Not everybody has good access to internet. There are families that have 1 computer and three students that have to share 1 computer and the time. So I'm assuming the cost and internet will go a little bit up. I'm assuming technical problems will go a little bit up because there will be newly online courses that were not online before. So there will be technical problems associated with that. But just like somebody said in the chat, I do believe social interaction will stay number 1. And I do believe now more than ever, social interaction is very important to students because I believe if the course is designed well, the instructor can take it to another level. If the course is not designed well, the course instructor still can save the day. However, if the course design is fantastic and everything is just what do they call it? Bells and whistles, yes, bells and whistles. If the instructor is missing, the students still don't have the experience. The students still are not leaving with the knowledge they're supposed to be leaving. So I do believe that social interaction and especially interaction with the instructor will be number 1. And so just to consider for that social interaction and learning motivation aspect, just to consider some of the aspects we will talk about today. I grouped them into 2 groups, social presence aspects and some collaboration and interaction, even though you can argue that collaboration and interaction is a subpart of social presence, but I kind of lay them out separately. So for the social presence, we will talk about how you can be there and how being there for you as an instructor and of course developer is very important. What are some strategies to make yourself look and feel and present approachable and caring? And also for some of the strategies to enhance the social interaction and to make sure that students have opportunities to be engaged. Those strategies we'll discuss, and they are group work, discussions, and peer review. So again, those are not the only elements that your course should have under any stretch of imagination, right? Those are just something that can be an addition to what you are already doing. You already know that you are to meet learning objectives. You already know what to design, what to teach. You already know all that. What we're going to discuss today is something that is that little bit of extra that your students are looking for, especially now in the era of this new teaching, that engagement, that interactivity with the student, that closeness, that sense of belonging, all of that. All right, so let's talk about being there. And I'm going to,
Excuse me, Tonka.
yes, ma'am.
There's a question. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Kate.
No, now I've got the barking dog. So there's a question in the chat that says, are you making a difference between online and remote instruction?
I am and I am not, because as long as you are not in the same classroom with the students, you are apart. So whatever the apart is, you can be online and you can be remote, either or. I believe that going towards the fall, we should be less of a remote. I know remote was a term used during the spring because it was such an emergent transfer into online, and it was more of a either fully online, or it was synchronous online, or it was all kinds of combinations of modalities. So I know that's why we were using remote, and also remote was more of a emergency type of concept. I think we're moving from remote into the online, even though it's not fully online, even though it's not fully synchronous. There is some kind of version of online. At SUNY, the whole system that calls that combined online, right? Online can be online synchronous, live lessons or live sessions combined with some asynchronous modules. That's all what they call online. So I don't think the topic today does not distinguish between remote and online. The strategies that we'll talk about can be used in both. So I'm thinking yes and no. I'm not really distinguishing, even though you can. All right, so for the research, I thought you would find it interesting, and I actually have the quote here, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to read the exact quote from the studies that I found, which I thought was really eye-opening to me. So number one, the claim that I'm going to make is that you as an instructor are the number one factor of students' engagement. It is not a student-to-student interaction. It is not student-to-materials interaction. It is between you and the student, between the instructor and the student. And I have two studies to support that. So first study that I'm going to very briefly give you the quote from is a study by Ragusa and Crampton, 2018. And they're saying they found that the quality and timeliness of lecturer feedback, this is, I think, Australian journal, so lecturer meaning instructor, feedback was the most valued form of learning communication identified by students regardless of course. So again, lecturer feedback, instructor feedback is number one valued factor in students' learning. And the second study that supports that has very similar quote or very similar statement is from Martin and Bolivar in 2018. Again, and they're saying that learners most valued learner-instructor engagement strategies and perceived a sense of belonging when they could interact with instructors who were accessible through multiple means. So again, your interaction, your relationship with your student is number one thing that will make or break the student's experience in regular online course, in remote course, in coming into the fall and forward. So again, how you perceive your students and how you interact with your students need to be very up on your planning list. So you should start thinking about some engagement strategies and how you're going to interact with your students, because again, just like I said, it might might make quite a bit of a difference between how your students are perceiving the course. And the last tidbit that I have here, which I thought was interesting, but then I asked around and my colleagues kind of confirmed that the most engagement, the students are most engaged out of 13 weeks in week 2 and in week 6, which is really unusual, especially for week 2. In my courses, my engagement is very high in week 1. I do open my courses a week before the semester starts, just for the students to be able to look around and make sure that the scheduling is right and they know when the major assignments are coming, so that they are able to schedule their life outside of of school to be able to meet those deadlines. So I do have a lot of introductory materials. I do have a lot of discussion in the first week. So I do see a lot of engagement in my own course in week 1. However, I asked colleagues and they did say, yes, week 2 for sure is more than week 1 in their courses. And then week 6, which does not really have to be 6. I think what is important here is the mid section, the midway through the course. That's where a lot of engagement is. And I'm also assuming it's because there are midterms. I'm also assuming that there is sort of urgency to finish strong. So that's why students come back into the course and engage more with the course. So I thought you'll find it interesting. And just again, summarizing, instructor role is #1 role that you can have in an online course, and the engagement is kind of at the beginning, a lot of it, and towards the middle of the course. All right.
Tonka, can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is this research across all online courses, or was it specific subject areas? Do you know?
It was, I know one of them was biology, I want to say. And there were around 1,800 participants, I think, in the SUNY Canton. So, but I'm not sure if it was just biology or it was STEM related, or something tells me it was biology. It's been a while since I read this and I don't remember exactly, but I think it was more on the STEM area. All right, let's go into the practical strategies of what we're talking about. So how do you increase the social presence by being there? What I mean by being there is engaging with your students on formal and also informal level. And now here it is very important, the informalness is very important here, because learning is associated with emotions, or emotions are associated with learning. So if I am perceiving something as pleasant and desirable, I will be more engaged in it. And that's what we want. We want to engage students. So you can, let's start with the graded or the more formal activities, right? So you have graded discussions that you ask your students to participate in. And I know you're teaching math, and I know you're probably thinking, well, how am I going to have a discussion in a math course? Well, just stay tuned. In a couple minutes later, we're going to talk about the discussions as well. So make sure, if you do have graded discussions, that you are in them. Make sure you provide students feedback. Make sure you're engaged with your students, because remember, #1 interaction is the instructor-student interaction when it comes to engagement. Also, personalized and timely feedback. Many times when we have a lot of students, we just send out one blanket announcement and that is it for our interaction, which, if that is the only thing you have time for because you're doing other things, that's fine. But think about other ways how you can personalize that one mass announcement. Can you maybe make it into a message? Can you maybe say, hey, Simone, I see that you're something or another, and here's the message. You can have the body of the message pre-formatted. You can have it pre-written somewhere and just copy and paste, but everybody wants to see their name. And especially when your instructor knows your name, that's very meaningful, and it creates that emotional connection and closeness between you and your student. So if you are able to personalize messages, always address your student by their name. If you are able to, I know the math classes are probably huge and it might take a lot of effort and time to accomplish that. But again, if you're able to, it's very helpful, and the student feels that emotional connection to you. And if you're able to, and sometimes it's even required in colleges, have office hours. Even if we are all working from home, and even if your courses are fully online, you can still have office hours. And you can have office hours, maybe one in the afternoon, one in the evening, one in the morning, or however you want to spread it out, so that you're trying to make sure that all of your students are able to take advantage. Sometimes what you can also do, you can ask, when is the good time for most of you to be available, if you are able to do that schedule wise. So ask for, let's say, Mondays afternoon are the times when most of your students are able, if they have questions, to meet with you during the office hours. And again, office hours can be taken any shape. They can be done in Zoom, just like we are right now. They can also be in chat. They can be in email. Just say, okay, on Tuesday between 3 and 4, I am on email and I am waiting for your questions. So the student knows the second you get an email, you're working on it, right? Because that's what you said you were going to do. So again, office hours can take different shapes and forms. You figure out as you go what is the best shape and form for you and your students. But having those even in online class is very beneficial for your students. And now
Pedro Morales is asking, what do you think about social media for social engagement? Is it advised? Is it dangerous?
I do not do social media, but that is my personal choice, and I don't. And if you are a social media type of person, I would, of course I would. However, I would definitely be mindful about the level of personal is shared in the social media. I would definitely make those guidelines very visible to your students. If we're going to use social media, if we're going to create a social media group somewhere in one of the platforms, make sure that it is, if it's not academic, make sure that the netiquette rules apply no matter where you are, as long as you're with other students, with your fellow students. You always have to be courteous. You always have to be polite. There's no disrespect that will be tolerated. Disrespect will not be tolerated. So I don't use it. But if you are a social media type of person with guidelines, I do recommend, because it does engage students, and students live on social media, a lot of them these days. So that's definitely a good way to engage your students. Absolutely.
I've heard some faculty that use it quite a bit. They welcome students to text them if they have questions, and that for many students helps them. I just think you have to be aware that, as surprising as this may be, there might be some students who are not on social media or who don't have easy access to the technology. So
absolutely,
it can't be a required mode.
Right, exactly. I always get somewhat mad when there's a voting of a kind and you have to use Facebook. Well, guess what? I'm not on Facebook, so I cannot vote on whatever concept it is, right? So you always have to be mindful of what kind of students you're having, and some students might not be able to be using whatever it is you're using. So all those things for sure have to be by choice. And also, if you are providing your students with your cell phone, make sure you have guidelines. Make sure you tell students, you can text me, however, not after 8 o'clock and not before 8 o'clock in the morning, right? Because students live in different time zones many times, and you will get text 3 o'clock in the morning before the assignment is due, and it's just, that's not where you want to live. Usually I teach fully online course, and I tell students, I'm going to respond to your email within 24 hours, and I'm going to grade your assignments within a week. So I know this is an online course. However, I do not live on the internet. I have life outside of the internet. So don't expect me to respond to you within 5 minutes, because it might not happen. It might, but it might not. So I always give myself this 24 hours. You can do 48. I think that's acceptable as well. Just give them guidelines so that you are not just bombarded with stuff on your social media and your phone, for sure. All right, let's go to ungraded activities. And those are very important, because when you come to class, in-person class, before the class begins, you talk about anything. You talk about, oh my goodness, that meal that I created yesterday for dinner, it was out of this world, or I went to whatever festival and whatever happened and I saw whoever, right? So they talk about all those outside of subject topics. And in online course, if you don't have that, it might feel very isolating. It might feel like, okay, I'm here for the math. I'm gonna do my hours of math and that's it. And that's not that's not only thing you want them to be when they are in the course. They also you also want them to be students. You also want them to be social beings. And if you give them that space in your course to discuss informal things, they will come into the course, they will engage with the course because they are looking forward to speaking to their buddies from the course, right? And once they are in the course, they will look at your discussion, they will look at your assignment, or they will look at the syllabus and see what's going on course schedule, right? So once they are in the course, they will stay in the course. And I actually give you, the next slide, I will give you my observation from my own course and some percentages that I think you will like. So you can create polls, just like the poll that we had before we started. We had a poll about how you're feeling right now, basically, what it is that you need. And you can use that in your courses, and the poll takes maybe 5 minutes to create. I know some LMSs have a poll tool, some LMSs don't, but if you don't have that tool in your learning management system, you can use SurveyMonkey, just like I used for this presentation. It's free, and it's very easy to create and give the surveys out to your students. What is important in surveys and in polls is just like you were able to see where you are at the end of the survey. After you submitted survey, you will see, oh, 6 other people also need patience right now. And oh, 3 other people also need strength right now. So that is the ability to see the results at the end of the survey is very strong, because that is what is connecting students to other students. That is what makes it feel like I'm not here alone, lost in the cyberspace. Other people have the same issues as I have, right? So we found out that a lot of us need patience, and we can kind of pontificate on why that is, and we probably know why that is, because we're coming into uncertain times. So you as an instructor, if you're seeing that there is a trend in one of the things that students need, you can address that in an announcement. You can say, oh, I see a lot of your patients right about this time, and I'm feeling with you here, because yes, I also don't know where I'm going when it comes to the teaching, so we're in it together. And here we go again, you're creating emotional connection with your students. So they're emotionally connected to the rest of the class because they're comparing themselves to others when it comes to the results of the poll, and you're also addressing it, and you also let them know that, oh yeah, she cares, she knows, she's seeing that we are struggling, she's seeing that we need strength. So you are creating this this impression of a caring person, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as well in the caring portion. And informal discussions, again, we already talked about some of the informal discussions. I'm going to skip one slide. Some of the informal discussions you can use is advice corner. If you have an online course, let's say fully online course, somewhere along the beginning of the semester, you can say, hey, if you are new to this online thing, ask others what you want to know. And if you are already seasoned online course taker, you can provide advice to your classmates. You can say what helped you in your first semester taking classes online. So we always have some mixture of experienced and inexperienced students, and we can provide emotional kind of advice to each other. Not really emotional only, but it can be also time management, how to make sure that your assignments are on time. Is there any time management tip you want to share? You can share. And the students, you would be surprised, the students actually do share a lot, especially when somebody has a question. There is a lot of students who answer that question. Some other things, completely unrelated to course, because again, you are trying to mimic that before the class starts time when students talk about anything under the sun, or after the class everybody goes to have ice cream to this ice cream shop next door to the college, right? So you're trying to mimic those situations. So having something related to the subject matter of your course is okay, but it's not as great as if it's completely nothing related to your subject. So how is your movie situation? Well, obviously we're not going to movies right now, but have you read any book, any interesting book lately that you would like to share? Something that would be completely out of the subject, but social, where students can engage. And you as an instructor can pipe in, don't have to, just give them the opportunity to socialize. And once they're engaged, when they have buddies in the course, they're more likely to stay in the course when the going gets hard. There we go. So they're more likely to persevere if there is this assignment that they just don't know how to, because they have network of buddies in the course already, and you kind of establish the basis of that. So definitely informal discussions are great to have. Let's go to the poll. The poll I was telling you about and the poll that you took at the beginning of the webinar, I have in my course, and I have it in every week. So my modules are 1 week long, and in every module I have this poll, and I'm starting the poll fresh every week. So I'm clearing all the answers, and every week we're starting fresh, because every week we might need different things, right? So I want to make sure that they have that ability to choose different things. And I looked at my courses with this particular poll and without the poll, and the discussions that were graded. In the courses with the poll, I had 20% more participation in the graded discussions, not in this one, but in the graded discussion. And this is where it matters, right? This is where the students are getting their grades from. They're getting from the graded discussions. So what happened here, I'm assuming what happened here, every week the students come into the course and they will pick whatever it is that they need from their jar. And while they're in the course, they look around and they participate in the discussion. And oh, Suzanne posted this. Let me see what she posted. And now I'm posting to answer to Suzanne. So I am, as a student, I'm engaged with the course, with the materials, but I'm also engaged with my instructor, because my instructor wants to know how I'm feeling emotionally. And I'm also engaged with other students because I'm already discussing with other students in the course. So that is a very good attention getter. And one other attention getter that I found is posting funny pictures at the beginning of the course. Now, they don't have to be funny, but they're just gonna be, somewhat interesting. And the strategy here that I have is I only posted Monday morning. So it's not there until Monday morning. On Monday morning, I post the picture. And what is funny, I actually had feedback from some of the students saying, I cannot wait for Monday morning to see what kind of crazy picture you post this week. And this is what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get them into the course, and I'm trying, once they're in the course, trying to engage with others, right? So Monday morning, they know that some crazy picture is going to show up in their course. They come into the course and they stay and they look around. Just like I said with this poll, this particular poll, I saw 20% higher engagement in graded discussions than in a course without this poll. And what is also funny, I asked my students to comment on anything in the course at the end of the course. And if there was ever any comment on a course activity, it is a comment on this particular poll. I mean, as innocent as it looks, people love it. It sounds cheesy. What do you want to keep? You want to keep hope? You want to keep patience? It sounds cheesy if you want to look at it that way, but it gets students engaged, and it gets students to feel that they're supported by the community, and that's definitely what you want. I got the idea from a pastor. I don't know what college, and I don't know anything else about this pastor. I just know that during the midterms, he posted an ad. Remember, like old-fashioned ads, like somebody's selling a car, they have little strips cut out at the bottom of the paper, and everybody with the phone number, and everybody will just just tear off that one little strip and take it with them so that they have the phone number. So he got the idea, and that's what he did. He posted those ads like, hey, take what you need. I know it's getting hard here because we're in the midterm and you have to study. So take what you want. And I saw it. I was like, there is no way I cannot duplicate that in an online course. So I did. And this is one of my favorite activities of my course because it's just so easy to create, yet it has such a humongous impact on your students. Now, some other polls that you might also want to use are some silly polls. For example, I love this one, and I think you like that too as mathematicians. If someone weighs 99 pounds and eats 1 pound of nachos, is that person 1% nacho? So just silly polls, something to engage them, something to get them into the course, something just to brighten their day for a minute. So something silly, those work as well. They do not work as well as the jar. I did get good results, but not the 20% range that I had in the jar activity. So emotional connection is definitely what students crave when they are in online course, because it's such easy thing to just let them be on their own in online. It's just not what they want though. All right, do we have any questions that I need to stop for? No, okay. All right, so let's move on. We already talked about the formal discussion. The second topic in the social presence column that we saw was make yourself be approachable, but not only be approachable, but also show them that you are approachable, so that it's easy for them to ask questions. It's easy for them to be engaged with you. When you are providing feedback to your students, there is no such thing as too much feedback. When it comes to online classes, there's no such thing. A lot of feedback is always great in online courses, so provide a lot of feedback. And also, if you're explaining something that student did wrong and you're explaining it to them in different way, always make sure that you write something. So if you're not sure, if you don't understand what I'm talking here, please come to my office hours, or please let me know and we'll schedule a live session on the topic, something that will open you up to being contacted. Many times students, especially in large classes, are not comfortable contacting their instructor because they feel like instructor is somebody very foreign, somebody who is very on the other spectrum of things, and I'm just not that comfortable talking to that kind of person. But if you open yourself up to being contacted, if you open yourself up to making sure that you are giving the student the right explanation of things, many times they will take you up on it. So make yourself approachable, and also show them that you are approachable, and caring as well, which is our last portion. So some of the caring, the message of caring was in that poll that I showed you when I said that after you see some trends in the poll, in the jar, when you see some trends, you can address them in an announcement, and then you will perceive as a caring instructor, caring person, because you're seeing that all of the students, a majority of the students, need strength right now. So you care how they feel. Also, if you are seeing that somebody is lagging behind, message them. If you are seeing that somebody was doing wonderfully in the first part of the semester, and they were getting all A's, and they were getting the content, and you felt confident that they understood, and suddenly they're not doing their grade, shoot them a message like, hey, I'm noticing a change here in you. Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything you need maybe tutoring on, or something like that, right? So always make sure you message if you're seeing somebody's performance change, and if somebody is not engaged in the course. Because again, the instructor-student relationship is the most important relationship in an online course, or course with online components.
Can I just jump in? We have a question from Moira McDermott. She says, I believe that there is research about how students expect certain things from women faculty more, including caring. How do we navigate those expectations?
Wow. That is so interesting, but so making sense. Absolutely. I didn't think about that, but yeah, I will have to look into that. So I think how you would navigate it,
There is a research that this happens quite a bit in face-to-face interactions, and that women faculty sometimes end up getting overloaded by all the students coming to their office for advising and for other things because they perceive greater caring. I wonder if that's an issue online because the way they have access to you is different. It's a very interesting question.
You know what's funny is before I have a video in my course, and but it's kind of late that I added it, and before I didn't have a video in my course, and some students told me towards the middle, towards the end of the course, they thought I was a man because of my name, because my name is so unusual. So you can just kind of pick gender because, you know, my name is not really a female or a male, I guess. And I do get a lot of messages, but I don't think I can be very meaningful and research based on this topic because I have not researched it. So unfortunately, I don't have answer. But I think if you have guidelines, what you are willing and what you are not willing to do, maybe that will help, and just post those in the course beforehand. You know, the extents to what you're okay going, and to where it's just going to be maybe we will need to talk to somebody else and just spread the wealth. I'm not sure if that is the.
I think that sort of matches what Moira is following up with. She says that also evaluations depend on how far you are from their expectations. So what I'm hearing you advise, and I think I agree with it, is that it may be even more important for women to set those expectations at the beginning of the class. So sort of be very clear about how available you are, how much you do care, and then also some boundaries around that so that you're meeting an expectation that you get to define in the beginning of the semester. And it's probably good advice for anyone.
Right. Sometimes what I do when I get a lot of, especially from international students, and I wonder why that is, especially from international students, I get millions of messages at the beginning of the course about everything under the sun. And I always try to respond as quickly as I can, but then when the messages started to be overbearing and it was just nothing but messaging with this one person, I got to the point where I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do going forward. You are going to first read the syllabus. And if the question that you have is not answered in the syllabus, then how about you wait half a day and then compile several questions and then shoot me an email? Because unfortunately, I have 24 other students and I'm not able to only respond to 1 million of your messages and nothing from other students. Well, also what I do when I have questions, I teach lower level course, so the questions are quite multiple in that course. I post an ask a question discussion. I have an ask a question at the beginning, and many times students post to that discussion, and then other students who already read the syllabus and who already know the guidelines, they answer to the fellow students, right? So it's kind of meeting to it's giving me two benefits. Benefit number one, student interacting with each other, and benefit number two, I have only so few questions to answer because some of them are already answered. So the gender one, I don't have answer to, but the overwhelming students with messages, I definitely have guidelines on that, and I have limits, because if 100% of my attention is on one student, then it's not benefiting the others. So for sure, I draw the line in messages. All right. Statements that express that their success is important to you. Many times in announcement, if you just sneak in a little sentence like, "Hey, it is very important to me that you finish this course. It is very important to me that you learn what you came here to learn. So please, if you are seeing something that is not clear to you and you need more explanation, let's shoot the email out to or the message to the entire course, or email me if there is anything I can help. And then we'll see if there is an extra tutoring session that we need to have, not just probably a student with the instructor, but maybe a group, as a group. I have APA sessions quite a lot in my course because for some unknown reason, students have very difficult time with APA. And I just say, okay, well, I'm seeing a couple of students emailing me about difficulties with APA, so let's have a live session on APA. So we have 1 hour session where I kind of show them the basics of APA. So just make sure they understand that they're not just a number, and you let them know in announcement, in messages, in any of your communication that it is important to you that they are successful in this course. And also be kind to yourself and to your students. Everything will be new for a lot of us coming fall. We don't know what we don't know yet because the fall will be such a different animal from anything else that we have experienced. So there will be issues, just like we already talked about. There will be issues with internet. There will be issues with devices. There will be all kinds of issues. So try to be flexible in the deadlines. Try to be flexible in assignments. Just show, that's one of the ways of showing that you care, when you are flexible. And if you are able to have students pick their own topic, then that's great. If you are even able to let students pick their own assignments, so let's say you have a selection of assignments, you have, let's say, 5 assignments, and out of those 5, students can pick 3 to complete. So there's a little wiggle room and a little flexibility, which makes the learning more relevant to the student, because you always want to engage more with the content that you're interested in. So if somebody is making you complete an assignment that is kind of lukewarm to you when it comes to interest, you will put the lukewarm type of energy and effort into it. But if it is interesting to you, you're more engaged in it and with it. So if you're able to, I know not everybody is able to select different assignments and different topics, but if you are, it's definitely going to work for you. Now let's talk about the group work and the discussion and the peer review that I promised you about. So group work, very important thing in group work is to be very structured in a group work, because if you just tell them, okay, now work in groups, they have no idea who's doing what, what is the function of me, what are we supposed to even research. So if you have very structured rules when it comes to, and guidelines when it comes to group work, especially in online environments, it will be very helpful to you. So also what is helpful is if your groups have different roles. So you can select who is going to be in what role, or they can self-select in groups, excuse me. So it's very important to have a moderator. If the discussion is going off the deep end somewhere, the moderator will jump in and bring it back into the topic. If there is any disagreement about the position that the group will take, the moderator again can jump in and kind of make sure that we are in the limits, within the limits. The role of a note taker is important one, who is going to take notes, what is discussed. And also once the final paper or final product or final whatever it is that we're creating, once that is finalized, who is going to be editing it, right? So if there are any other roles that you find interesting and important for the group work, for sure, use them. But at least those 3 are always good to have. So you can teach students. We will have those 3 roles, and before the end of tomorrow, I will need names for each group, who those people are for those roles, so that you know who to contact even. So if you want to contact the group, maybe the best way to contact the group is through the moderator, right? Because they're kind of holding the group work together. So the roles are very important. Partial deadlines are very important. You cannot just say, we're going to, as a group, you're going to create 20-page paper and it's due September 1st. It's not that helpful. What is helpful is if you have the project divided into several steps, And then the first step will be due, I don't know, August 12th. And then the next step will be due August 17th. Until you get to the final project, you will get better results and there will be more of a engagement happening and more of a learning happening. Time frame, of course, is very important, scheduling time frame. And what you need to decide before the group work starts is how are you going to grade it? Are you going to give everybody in the group the same grade? Are you going to grade based on their contribution? And if they are going to be graded based on their contribution, how are you going to get that amount of contribution that everybody had? So are they going to submit any kind of statements stating that this person was contributed the most, this person was lacking, this person something or another? How are you going to deal with that? And again, there is not right or wrong answer. There is just what is your preference and where you are when it comes to your teaching. I've been in groups where everybody got the same grade, and I've been in groups where everybody had the grade they deserved. So, and I was fine with both. So it's really up to you to decide. Just know that you need to know that beforehand so that you're not stuck towards the end of the group work, not knowing the grading, how they're going to be graded.
Tonka, I'm just going to give you a warning. We're about 5 minutes from 3.
Thank you. Thank you. So we do have only 2 more things to talk about before we run into the grilling and egg and the whole thing with the grilling. So let's talk about the discussions. Discussions, I know you're going to say, well, in math, there is no such thing as discussions. Well, they can be. There can be, for sure, and they can be. Discussions in math are probably need to be more structured than anywhere else because if you are discussing, Abby gave me a great example. You have 4 people at the dining table. What are all the combinations that can be seated in, and what combinations that can be seated, right? So if you have a problem that is only a numbers problem, you can translate it into real world and make it a discussion. So the first post can be, create a scenario. So somebody can create, as your student can create a scenario for the class. The second post might be, okay, so now tell me exactly how the people are going, what is the combination, how the people are going to be seated. And if you have mathematical calculations, we need to know exactly how you came into your result. So it's not just there are 1,200 different options. That's not good enough. I need to know how you came into this conclusion. And then post number 3 can be, so now that we have this problem solved, what are other uses of this particular technique or this particular strategy, or are there any other spin-off problems from this one that you can come up with? So for example, the first post can be due by, I don't know, Tuesday night, and then the second post can be due by Thursday night, and then the last post can be due by Sunday night. So here you go, already you have the discussable discussion for an online course. So always think about some practical ways how to get students to learn, what you're trying to make them learn, I guess. And also what is good to have, and we already touched on it a little bit at the beginning, have live discussions if you're able to. I know some colleges already have their modalities figured out, some probably do not. If you are able to, and your college is allowing you to, online synchronous sessions are a great engagement tool for your students. The student is able to ask questions. They see you as a human being. They see you in person. So if you're able to do that, please do that and do that often. Sometimes also what I heard, one mathematician actually was saying that she has the live discussions and she's requiring the students to take notes during those live sessions, and the students are then required to submit certain number of those notes. So let's say we have 8 live sessions during the semester, 6 you have to submit as notes. So that is also some motivation that they will attend, and it's also learning tool just to note what happened in the live session and what we learned, what was discussed, was there any problem that was discussed, how was it solved? So all the discussions that can happen in math really should happen in math, because just like I said, that engagement with your fellow students and with your instructor is are two most important things that can happen in an online course. And the last one, and I have another little research tidbit, and and then we're going to talk about X, and then we're done. So a little research tidbit is sometimes, even I sometimes look at peer review like, well, students don't know how to grade, and I cannot just ask students to grade other students because they don't know. So I looked into the research, I looked into literature, and I found actually quite several studies saying that scores that peers give to peers are actually fairly consistent among each other and are very similar to the scores that the instructor would give to that particular activity. So peer review, some strategies for peer review that you have to have considered before you create a peer review assignment is have a rubric. The rubric has to be very specific so that the students have something to grade it on. If the student does not have a rubric, there's no telling what they're going to grade on. So if there is a rubric, that is a very good tool is the rubric for the rubric to be fillable, so that the student submits not only the final grade, but also the rubric that goes with that assignment. So evaluation rubric has to happen before there is any good peer review. And a good amount of peer reviews will be 3 to 5 per student. If one student peer reviews one student, it's not as reliable as when you have 3 to 5 students grading or peer reviewing another student. So have those. And just like in NASA, we are not sending people to space just based on one calculation, right? Everybody calculates and recalculates others' calculations. So work like NASA, have students work like NASA, have somebody calculate and recalculate. And also when you recalculate, it can be a part of an assignment, the recalculation, can you come up with different technique, how to get, or strategy, how to get to the final answer? So they can also be working in your discussions, you know, just come up with different strategy on solving the particular problem. And not only you have content sharing, not only you have content learning, you also have peer mentoring when it comes to peer review. You as a student are mentoring your other students, like, hey, did you think about solving this problem in this kind of way? What about different problem set? Do you think that will work with that problem set? So you can create discussions with peer review combined, where students are helping each other and staying engaged, number one, and learning, well, not number one, learning and staying engaged in the process. So peer review, discussable discussions, and group work are definitely great engagement tools when it comes to online course. And before we wrap up, I want to come back to my grilling experience. So how is teaching like grilling an egg? So you cannot just bring an egg to the grill and just kind of plop it on the grill and call it a grilled egg. You cannot. If you open the egg and you try to grill it that way, it's going to run through the grill onto the charcoal, and no good. So you're trying to grill an egg, what you need to do, you still can do it, but you have to do it on an extra pan, right? You bring in a pan from the kitchen with you, and that's where you crack the egg and put the pan on the grill. So yes, you can grill an egg. However, you have to have a special tool, not special tool, you have to have a tool that is appropriate for the process. And teaching is very much the same. You know where you're going to, you know what you are supposed to be teaching, you know the learning objectives that your students are supposed to arrive at. And will every single strategy work for that? No. You will have to choose what will work for particular problem that you have in your course. So again, always have the learning outcome in your mind. Always know where you're going with the course, and you do, because you know what to teach. But then again, there is a magic in choosing the right tool. And the right tool might be live sessions, just like we talked about. The right tool might be, if your students are not that engaged with each other, it might be some boost in social activities that we mentioned. It might be some discussions. It might be other things that you're going into. So when you as an instructor think about how you're going to approach your course, always think about what you are teaching, what is the best way to teach that, and how you are going to engage your student and how you're going to show them that you care. Because remember, student-instructor relationship is the most important, especially in an online course. All right, what questions do you have that we haven't?
Thank you, Tonka. So we've got one from
Absolutely.
Heather. So due to reduced classroom capacity, half of my students will be attending in person and the other half will be watching it synchronously. Do you have any suggestions about how to split the class into groups given that division?
So I've heard different things, that people are doing different things. I've heard of college who is doing, and everything has pros and cons. So one college is doing cohorts. They have 2 cohorts and they're switching them around. So one week, one cohort is in person. The next week, the same cohort is online. And then the cohort that was in online is now in person, right? So they're switching them around so everybody can have their fair share of online and in person. Then I've heard another college is doing sign-up system. So they have a sign-up and there is a certain limit on classes in the classroom. And whoever signs up to be in the classroom, first comes, first served kind of situation. So they work there too. That work.
Do you have, I think she was talking about, given that you have these 2 different groups that are coming and going, do you think you should blend them in creating group work, or do you think you should separate them in creating group work?
I would definitely blend them, and I would use online component of the course to do a lot of that, because many times they're not going to be seeing each other, seeing different groups, members of the other group, right? They're not going to be seeing the other person. So I would definitely use online to do that, and I would definitely blend them, because then you if you don't, then you are creating really 2 classrooms within one classroom, and you don't want that. You want them to be together. And if you're teaching in a flex or high flex, what we call high flex environment, that's the same thing. High flex is when students are able to choose how they're going to receive the session. Are they going to be in person in the classroom? Are they going to be streaming in? Are they going to be watching later at night? So they can choose. And in that situation, I would group them as well. I would make them work together so that there is this cohesion. There is this, I belong to this, and I don't only belong with my 4 people, but I belong in the entire classroom for sure.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we've hit all the other questions, unless there's somebody who would like, oh, there's one more. There's a thank you. If there's somebody from the audience that would like to ask a question, I can hand you the microphone if there are any questions, or you can type your question into the Zoom. Otherwise, there was one question about avoiding Zoom bombing that I actually answered, but maybe you have a better answer. The answer we get is use a password and use a link that's not your open Zoom. Have one that's specific to your class.
Right. Yeah, that would be my answer too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, my college uses Collaborate Ultra that is associated with a course, so we don't have issues with that.
Right.
They also use Teams, so there is no issue with that either. So, but for Zoom, yeah, password is fine. Yeah.
Okay. I think that may be it. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and we are past time. It's 12:08 in California, which means it must be some other time where you are, 3:08 your time.
Yes, it is.
I'd like to remind everybody that there's a survey when you leave the today's lecture. You have a survey. It's short. I took it myself. It took less than a minute. And also to remind you that this session is going to be posted along with the notes. So I really want to thank Tonka for her participation today. It was a very engaging and informative discussion, and I wish you a safe and peaceful rest of your day.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm going to end the recording and end the session. So I wish all of you a great day, and we'll see you at the next one on Wednesday, same time. Okay, take good care, everybody. Bye-bye. So I've stopped.